Namaste again. Welcome to the fifth segment and the last segment of this module. What village self governance tells us about India and why these systems matter beyond just the village. At this point, we need to take a step back. We have looked at village not as a romantic space but as a functional system. We have examined how villages handle governance, justice, economic life. But the question now is, what do these systems tell us about India as a whole? What is it? What is a general impression that we draw out of it? And to answer this, we must stop thinking of India only as a modern nation state formed just in 1947, and we have to begin thinking about it as a civilizational society. Let's begin with a basic observation. India has never been uniform, right? Language, customs, food habits, social structures, belief systems, they've all varied widely. Yet, despite this diversity, villages across India show remarkably similar logic of organization. They're not identical rules, but similar philosophies. Let us take the example of village design and organization. If you travel from a village in Rajasthan, let's say, to the one in Tamil Nadu, the physical layout will of course differ. Climate, material, occupations, all of these things, their structures will be different. But in all the cases, both these cases, you're going to find common spaces for collective gathering, recognized elders or councils. You'll find shared resources. You will find informal but respected norms. This suggests that unity in India does not come from sameness, it comes from shared ways of managing difference. Let's consider how authority functions in such a society. In centralized systems, authority flows from the top. In village-based self-governance system, authority is earned through trust at the ground level. Village leaders are not powerful because they command force. They are powerful because people believe in their judgment. This matters because it produces voluntary compliance, not forced obedience. A voluntary compliance is what allows large, diverse society to function without the need for a constant coercion of a third party. For a moment, reflect on the idea of law. Modern states rely heavily on written law and formal enforcement. Village systems and local systems, they rely on social legitimacy. This does not mean that villages are lawless. In fact, quite the contrary. It means that the law is embedded in everyday life and behavior. These are visible through what we see as rules that are socially acceptable, which are followed even without surveillance, even without the need to be written down. And this explains why local regions in India could regulate land use, resource sharing, conflict without the need for constant intervention from kings or officials. Let's think about resilience now. Why did villages survive centuries of political change? Why did they adapt to different rulers, colonial rule, and even independence without losing their internal coherence? The answer lies in decentralization or polycentralization, as we say. Because decision making was local, change at the top did not quite destroy life at the bottom. Villages adjusted without wanting and waiting for permission. And that's why when princely states merged into India, village life did not quite disintegrate. The nation changed, but the village endured. And therefore, it's important for us to connect this idea to the idea of democracy. Democracy is often understood as voting and representation, but rural and local life in India shows another dimension of democracy, which is participation. People participate when decisions affect them directly. They speak when their voice matters. Village assemblies, councils, the collective discussions, all of these exercises are training people in listening, negotiating, compromising, accepting outcomes. These are democratic skills, even when they are not labeled as such. So when modern democratic institutions are introduced, or when they were introduced, they were not introduced to an unfamiliar territory. We had that DNA already. And therefore, it's important for us to understand why this matters today. You see, development debates often assume that progress requires replacing local systems with centralized ones. But the examples we have studied, they suggest a very different lesson. India's strength has always come from polycentric governance or decentralized governance, social trust, community accountability. Ignoring this weakens institutions instead of strengthening them. So when we talk about Gram Swaraj, we're not talking about returning to the past. We're actually talking about the future. We're talking about recognizing what has always worked and will work. Village self-governance explains how India absorbed diversity, how it survived political transitions and tensions, how it maintained social order without uniformity. In short, villages are not the smallest units of India, they are the foundational units. Understanding them, therefore, helps us understand why India exists, not just as a state, but as a civilization. Thank you.